All right, back in the game. Dude, Jeff, the music, I I love is that just the theme song? Is that the startup theme song? I mean, I guess it is. Hey, it's good to be here. Good to be back. It's been 4 weeks and, more than 4 weeks, oh my gosh. And, yeah, it feels good. It's been quite an interesting journey, and, yeah. Oh my gosh. So I was in Seoul for 3 weeks, and and it was really a good trip as always. A very full trip. Whenever I'm over in Korea, I'm busy, really pretty much every day doing something, um, various talks or meetings or interviews or filming or something like that. So it's really uh, it's cool. It's a lot of fun, and the I love Korea, and I love the Korean people and culture. Yeah, everything about it. I mean, there are certain things that are just so fascinating, and so it's good. So anyway, I'm here. Jeff and I thought, okay, we're going to have to start streaming this summer. We're not back in the classroom until the end of August, so we won't have anything directly with students. Although I will have some students, very small class of 24 people starting at the end of June, and first year students, so like 18-year-olds, they're meeting with me once a week. So it's a good opportunity for me to just kind of pick the brains of recent high school undergrads, and really just listen a lot to them. I mostly listen. I just ask questions and listen because um, it's just easier that way. Once in a while, I say a few things, but they and then they watch videos from the class. So I have the idea that it's somehow just best if I listen, and it's pretty cool because they're very unfiltered because they will have just graduated high school a couple weeks earlier, and so it's a really fascinating opportunity to do that. Um, so that's that. And so we're just going to do these kinds of office hours and bring some people on. It'd be kind of nice, and just kind of stay in tune. We've got some new technologies that we're working on, and we're going to work on in the classroom. Like I'm wearing this earpiece here, so Jeff I'm on a Discord call, so Jeff can talk to me at any moment in live in real time, which is pretty cool. So we're going to be doing that in the classroom. So I'll wear my earpiece here that I can hear the microphones, but I'll also be listening to other people here in my ear. And in fact, back in the day when we were working on the television show we called You Can't Say That, Lori, my wife Lori, would sit in the back of the room, and inside of a kind of a soundproof room, and watch the class and talk to me through an earpiece and feed me questions or just help me to clarify questions, ask better questions. So I spent a couple years really in training, doing what I do now, which is asking students questions. I mean, I very much got trained. I wouldn't say I very much. I got trained. Like I really from the best, and so it's pretty cool now. Sometimes I'll kind of get halfway through a question, and then I'll say to myself, "Hey, what would Lori say about that question?" And then I back up and I reframe it and that kind of thing. So, yeah, so that actually makes the conversations with students that happen in the classroom much better. Okay, so listen, we're only going to kind of be on as long as people have questions, and if we don't have questions, then we're just always trying out new technologies and new things, and so then we'll just kind of call it a day. So maybe Jeff, I guess you could show part of the beginning of that one television program that we recorded in Korea that might be kind of interesting. There's the Arirang, Arirang is Arirang. It's called, is the station that is the English-speaking station for the nation of Korea, and it's very much publicly funded, and they broadcast all over the world. And so there's one particular program called The Globalists that I was on along with Lori and then our students. We took 20 students over to Korea from Penn State, and we took them into the studio and we recorded a half-hour program Lori and I did with the host. The host's name is Son Jie. She was the CNN correspondent for the nation of Korea for many years, and she's really great. And she interviewed Lori and I about education and different parts of culture and so on. And then we brought our students in, but our students had only been there for a couple of days at that point, so they really didn't have a lot of observations, which was kind of the most interesting thing about it, that they could be asked, their thoughts upon having just arrived in Korea. So anyway, Jeff, if you could run that if you want, just the first couple of minutes of that program, I think it kind of,
I'm going to tell you why I think you should pay attention to Korea, why it would be really wise. The one industry that we could bust into is the cultural industry. They started what's called the Korean Wave. This is BTS. This is the band that really has put K-pop on the charts. Look at these guys. This is the future. I need a white woman. Ready? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick out the darkest skinned person in the class.
The first moment when Sam said pick out the person with the darkest skin, and there was like this
took over the room.
What was that?
There was an what was that? Somebody put words to that.
We pretend not to notice, and he's telling us to notice it, call it out, while it's like something we think internally or something we'll talk to a friend.
I just wanted to ask if you could explain what's happening right here.
Yeah. What's happening here is this is the classroom where we brought our 20 students together with 30 students from Konkuk University. I am a professor at Konkuk University also. And so we brought them all together, and we make it a study abroad program that, we don't allow the Penn State students to just hang out with themselves. We really force them, I think you could say, or we allow them, but we force them. We enable them to engage with with 30 Korean students. And so you really get a great study abroad experience, because these students become friends very early on, and then their experience in Korea is really built around these new Korean friends that they have. And so it's pretty cool. Right in here, in this particular room, we broke them up. So Penn State students were on one side of the room, and Korean Konkuk students were on the other side of the room. So that's why you see them all sitting together like that. But And even though you see me standing around, it's Lori that's asking all the questions because she's the guru. And yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's a really neat experience. And this is a classroom at Konkuk University. Yeah, so it's a really, yeah, it's a lot of fun. For me, it's really most valuable. That's Ben, Professor Ben Park. He's a professor at Penn State, also down at the Brandywine campus. And he's the reason we went to Korea, because it was his idea actually to take students over there. So, so the three of us teach this class that meets once a day while we're there. And yeah, so that's I think that this.
How long was the class? Like, how long were the students there for?
To 15 days, I think. Yeah, maybe 16 days. Now, by the way, I think that what you just showed right there is actually part 2, right? The second part of this, of the Arirang program. Yeah, I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in any case, yeah, that's our. That's the key. So then, we get them together and they're just talking all the time. Korean students, and they're practicing their English. Like, they have to have a certain level of English. So some speak better than others. Some are just more reticent to speak, more shy, as people are when they're learning the second language. And a few of our students are learning Korean. So that's actually pretty cool also. So yes, it's a really nice. It's a really great experience. It's a lot of fun, and it's cool to see, to give the Korean students an opportunity to give all of the students an opportunity to engage one another and become friends. Yeah, that's the key. So for me, I'm like that's the biggest thing for Lori and Ben and I. Yeah.
What was something that, because I'm sure you talked to the students before they left, and then after they had gotten back or were about to leave, what was something that a student said at the end of the trip that really stuck out?
I think I could show really a lot of photos of all these students hanging out, and we could just go on and on with these photos. But the biggest part of the trip, or the part that has the greatest value, is for the Penn State students, is meeting the Korean students and becoming friends with them. And for the Korean students, it's having an opportunity to meet the Penn State students. And not all of whom are Americans, but I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, you just can't. So here's what happens when you do study abroad, right? In this kind of way, you go somewhere, and wherever you go, you're going to meet other young people or other students, but they all have their friendship networks, and they're all connected in a variety of ways. And so they're really busy, right? Maybe they have their families, they have their friends, so, you're just not going to enter into these relationships very easily. And so therefore, students, when they go abroad to some university like this, they're stuck. The doorways don't open. So, we know that because we've taken students to Haiti, to Greece, to Peru, and now the second time in Korea. And I think, Jeff, you were there in Haiti, right? When we took students, were you there?
Yep.
Yeah. So the issue is, we know that without kind of pushing that, the students will never form relationships, right? And then what happens is the students who are new to some particular university or country will end up hanging out by themselves. And so we opened this up to students at Konkuk, and we asked for people to apply to be part of this program. And they needed to have a certain level of English, or be really willing to practice and speak the English that they were able to speak. And they had to really be willing and able to have time to spend with the Americans. So they had a really, really tight schedule. They couldn't be part of the program. So they had to really open it up. And so in that sense, it's just awesome. So that's the biggest thing that people say is like, wow, they made these friendships. Now, nobody said that our students, they weren't like, oh, it's great because we get to be in a class with Ben and Lori and Sam. Like nobody says that. So it's that they get to, and anybody can go to Korea. I mean, my God, just get an airplane ticket and go and stay at a hotel and go visit museums and all that kind of stuff. And, all too often that's what these study abroad programs do. And I understand that, but ours is not that. Ours is to say, hey, we're going to take you over there to make friends. And that's what happens. And that's what people really appreciate. So, and it's really, really cool to see that happen. Because if I were that age, that's what I would want to have happen. And that, that's mostly what I do when I travel, right? It's rare that Lori and I go somewhere where we don't know people or we're not invited in some way, or we don't have some kind of entry into the culture, because that's what makes it so fascinating. And that's how, for me, I'm able to, more quickly learn the many different things that I learn about cultures and places and peoples around the world, is because I always have an immediate in with people. And so that makes it really cool. So, yeah, so that's it, man. I forgot to pull up some photos of these students, but they really had a good time, man. Yeah. How can you not, it's really, and our students don't know that, I have a certain kind of reputation in Korea, I suppose. And our students don't know that. So, it's kind of a surprise to them, or maybe not. I don't know. So, yeah. Wallflower said something about an exchange program. That's why exchange programs are so cool, man. You just you just engage, and this is life. This is like what we're trying to do in the Social 19 class, right? And I always say that, if we could, if we would just do nothing more than, in that class, just make it a big like friendship / dating network, right? So all we did was like send people on like dates, whether it's just as friends or as potential partners or something like that. And like everybody signed up for that. And we just did that all semester long, right? That would be like the best possible thing, right? Because you just break down the barriers right away with people from different backgrounds. I'm talking about, different places. And yeah, so that's, it's really nice. It's rewarding, I would say. All right, man. Any what else do you have?
I was just going to add on I was trying to find a picture, but it's taking forever to load. But I was going to disagree with you. I was a people-to-people student ambassador when I was going into high school. So like 8th grade to 9th grade, that summer in between. And I went to 6 countries, and I was invited because my sister was invited through one of the leaders. So with people to people, it's run with it's with U.S. government, and they invite a bunch of people to go, students, to go to foreign countries, and you get like a really in-depth tour of a lot of places, not just like we, for instance, talked to a member of parliament. I was 13 and couldn't care any less, but we also saw some really cool places like Bastogne, where the Battle of the Bulge is. We saw that, and we really took a lot of time to talk about the history and what makes us. And we were also like 65 kids from across the country, from Pennsylvania and Florida, Wisconsin, and that was really, really cool. So if anybody ever has the opportunity to do that, or if you have kids and they're like, hey, I heard this thing, they told me to check it out. Yes, 100 times. Yes, my sister did it. She went to France, Italy, and Spain, and then I went to Ireland, Wales, England, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And it was really, really cool.
Well, that that is, and at that age in particular, I mean, I would agree that anything like that at that age, just sort of getting into another space where people are speaking another language and is valuable, right? Because what you see how large the world is, and you get out of your own smaller world, and that has, just by itself, it has value. I think as when you're, by the time you kind of get into college, and if you've never traveled, like there are a couple people who are on our trip, they've never been out of the country, so just simply arriving in Korea, if they'd have done nothing but just visit museums and so on the entire time, that would be still mind-blowing, just to be there. But when you're really, to have your kind of cosmic, to have a kind of significant crack in the cosmic egg, so to speak, engaging or making friendships is really pretty essential, I think.
Also,
So-
she won't ever watch this, but shout out to Katie. She was a girl from Florida who went on that trip that just yesterday posted that she got her PhD. So good on you, Katie.
Yeah, oh, very cool, man.
Shout out.
Dr. Bay. Yeah, hey, thanks. So you're from South Korea. Yeah, thanks, man. I think that, I'm interested in every country in the world, right? Including the US. But there's just something about Korea that is so fascinating. I don't, someday I'll talk about it more, but, just what Korea's been able to do in the past 60 years.
People always say that you get a really good first impression. First impressions matter. The first impression of going to a foreign country is the airport. How is South Korea's airport?
It's quite, the terminal you fly into is pretty new. It's very efficient, actually. Well, strangely, so there's an odd thing that I experienced at the Korean airport. So Koreans, while they have this East Asian kind of way of being, right? I should say this kind of Confucian way of being, and I'm not really going to kind of dig into that, but there's this way of just holding oneself, right? Comportment, I think we call it, and so generally, a little bit reserved, because you don't want to be the nail that sticks out. The nail that sticks out gets pounded down, and this is common in a number of countries around the world, but it certainly exists in East Asia, and particularly in Korea. But there's this, ironically, this bali, this way in Korea. It's like fast. You just go fast. I can always put, no matter what, it's I've never been in an elevator where, you get in the elevator and you hit the button of the floor that you're going to, and then you hit the close the door button, right? So someone gets in, it's clear that we're going wherever, down to the lobby of a hotel or wherever we're going, and they just start hitting the closed door button. It's just like boom, 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 boom. And so there's this fast-paced way that Koreans have, very calm and fast at the same time, right? So, so in the airport, my very first experience of Korea, which is kind of, so it's kind of odd, right? You would imagine you kind of get into the customs or immigration, and you'd have, if you got like 30 windows or booths open, you're going to have a customs or immigration agent in every one of them, because you got to get the line going really quickly so people get in really fast. My very first experience of Korea was that there were like 2 windows open. I waited in line longer than I had ever waited in an immigration line in my entire life anywhere. And I thought, my God, this like goes against everything that I know to be true about Koreans, which is very efficient, very fast, very quick, so that was very funny. So, and often I see that at the airport, even still. Last time I was there, it was like this really long line, because I bypass the line because I do this particular program where I can get into the country really fast. But yes, anyway, that's just a funny story of the ironies of life, right? But anyway, there you go, man. The culture is the driving force of industry, man, in Korea, and it's this culture of this is Dr. Bay is saying this, Jeff. There's this way of just efficiency and highly educated people being able to work together. This is really, really important. Man, you've got to be able to work together. So you might have a lot of criticism about certain things, but you're going to hold it to yourself, right? There just is not this kind of organizational workplace criticism. There may be gossip here and there compared to the West. Oh my God, there might be, but so much is kept to oneself for the sake of efficiency. And again, the goal is to look around oneself and say, like, hey, what are other people doing? How am I doing compared to other people? It's like I talk about Koreans as having like sonar in the way that bats do. East Asians, I should say, right? Well, this is true in the Nordic or Scandinavian countries, but in Sweden you have this yanta, right? It's like this kind of you're sending these signals out all the time to see like what's everybody else doing and how are they doing it and how are they perceiving what I'm doing, and because the community and people around us really matter, and people's assessment of what those people think of us really matter. In the US, of course, those are all completely shut off because what matters most, I mean, there's, not completely shut off, but what matters most is what do I want and what am I doing and what's in it for me. And, you get on an airplane, you see all these stories of people on airplanes and it's just space. Americans will just take space up because they want to take space up. I mean, again, it's a kind of a generalization, but you just see these certain kinds of behavior that you don't see in Korea. You just don't. Koreans will say like, oh my God, yeah, but our culture is changing. We're getting so much more individualistic and, and people are not respecting other people. And I'm like, man, yeah, I'm sure, of course, that has changed a little bit in the past 30 years, but compared to other countries, man, oh my God, it's there's such a deep respect for other people, just other people's space and other people. I walk down the streets in Seoul and I hear, even in like a crowded streets where there are lots and lots of cars, maybe I hear a car honk every couple of minutes. And one time on this trip, I heard 3 horns within like 10 seconds. And I'd never heard that before. And I took this video of, I should do this. I took this video of Colombia, a street in Colombia, and I did another one in France, and I did another one in New York. And just like the horns honking, it was a cacophony of horns. And and I'm like, you don't have that. And of course, in Ethiopia, I never heard a horn ever. Ever. It was the most eerie, strange feeling that I've ever had in my life, to be on the street and have just silence. Very odd. But yeah, anyway, so that's that about Korea.
Do you want to see 2 pictures from my trip I talked about?
Yeah,
I was able to find 2.
dude. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, I want to see one. This is you as a 13-year-old.
Something like that. I'll do the math while I show you this picture. So my parents are actually going to go to Ireland pretty soon here, I think. And that picture is my favorite picture I've ever taken. Somewhere in Ireland, I don't know where it is. We took like horse and buggy ride up this mountain, and our horse was really, really old, and so we actually had to do like 80% of the hike because the horse couldn't carry us. So I ended up getting this picture when we were walking up the mountain.
That's a cool photo.
And it's one of my favorites. And then this is a picture from Normandy.
Dude, Normandy, man. I've always wanted to go to Normandy. Oh
It
yeah.
was from Utah Beach, where one of the beaches that the Americans,
Oh, is that a bunker?
and that's one of the German bunkers.
Oh damn.
And so that's all of the people that I was with from, I think we were 6 different states.
Yeah, that's cool. Wait, where are you in that photo?
I am right here.
There you are, man. Damn. Yeah, look at that.
So
That's
it was
cool, man.
2000, I think it was 2009.
Yeah, that's
So I was like 14 maybe.
yeah. I never had those experiences at that age. I mean, it's fine that I didn't. I mean, I had them. I've had them
Yeah, for sure.
since, but that was yeah, that's really cool. It's such a great opportunity, man. For
Yeah, I'm
kids.
so jealous my parents are going to Ireland. But it's their first time they've been to Europe, and I was 14, so
Oh,
I
very
count my
cool.
blessings where I have them.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Huh.
Yeah, Normandy was really Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge. Those 2 places were really sobering up. I
Yeah,
still think about those often.
had my wife's father not passed away last summer, we were planning to take him to Normandy. Yeah, he really wanted to go there. Anyway, hey, so listen, what else? What other?
Somebody asked about the summer and the fall semester. So I'll screen share yet again because I'll show you the calendar. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here. So the summer goes from June 26th through I think August 6th.
Yeah,
And so the classes go Wednesday to Wednesday because the idea is over the summer people work on their assignments over the weekend, so things aren't due on Monday. They have like an extra day or two to get the assignments done. However, we're still going to be running the YouTube channel and the website more like a Monday through Friday schedule. So the Monday before the class starts, on our YouTube homepage, you'll be able to see all of the videos that come out. So class 1 will come out, and actually class 1 and 2 we're editing and changing a little bit. We're putting a few classes together that match the same theme, and so those videos will come out at noon those days, but then every other day we won't necessarily get a notification, but you can keep up with the class. You can check Monday through Thursday. I even might make a calendar public that people can check out if you guys are really interested. And I'll be posting everything on the Discord. So all of the links for all the videos will be on the Discord. So you can follow along on there or on the website. We'll keep that updated every Monday. We'll put the next week of classes all out at once. So people who want to watch the classes, and again, they're going to be repeats. There's going to be some classics that we've used a couple of times that are really, really good. So for instance, Bossum for the first time in the United States, or the one chocolate lecture that we have about modern day slavery. We're going to use that again. And then also once a week during the summer class, we're going to have a office hours live stream. And we're going to be joined by Sam and Elijah, who will be doing the dialogues with the students, which is part of their grade. And you'll meet Elijah probably maybe a week before the semester starts, or maybe during the first office hours. We'll introduce Elijah.
Except that day on the 26th, because I'll be in Korea.
Yeah, so Sam's going back the 26th, so we're going to figure out something else with office hours, or maybe getting you guys a video during that time, so that we have some content up during the summer, and that will continue. And then I think we have 2 weeks in between the summer course and then Social 19 starting. So from 4:35 to 5:50, Social 19 will be back on starting on August 27th.
Dude, very cool. Which is Lori's birthday.
Nice.
No. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have some cool conversations. Yeah. Get connected to the Discord. I'll send the link in the chat.
Okay. Hey, so listen, are there any questions today? Like anything to kind of to kick around that I could respond to. Okay, Vivek is asking, you ask about India and the election results. Yeah, you know what? I followed them. I know that Modi was expecting to really win by a landslide. And, I don't want to delve into Indian politics here. This is, Jeff, this is Vivek's question. Yeah. I don't want to dig into Indian politics here, but I'm a little bit, the kind of nationalism that I see coming out of the BJP and Modi's party is a little bit disconcerting. I think I would say that, and maybe a lot disconcerting. But in any case, I know that they were expecting that he would win by a landslide, and he didn't, and he had to cobble together a government. And in fact, not only did that happen, but one of the opposition parties could even like kind of take over the government if they made alliances with other parties, which they probably won't. So it will continue to be Modi. But yeah, so I did follow that. Yeah, I think that like there's just as I'm kind of looking out into the world and I think about the future of this planet and where we're headed, I think there are two countries that are particularly important that sometimes just kind of get oddly overlooked, and that's China and India, simply because of the size of the populations. And I think here in the US, we talk about China a lot because China is just this presence, right? But India is also a presence, and India will in terms of population, in terms of its growing GDP, in terms of questions related to the environment and climate change. And India has the bomb, man, and that matters too. And so I feel like India also has one of the largest armies in the world. So it feels to me, it is just, I pay attention to when there are elections in India, let's say. It just feels like, man, I need to pay attention. I need to make sure. I just want to continue to understand what's going on. I don't know why. It doesn't really affect my life in a big way, but it feels like if I want to understand the planet and where we're headed, then I want to understand India. So I take time to read that. Yeah. It was, yeah. So, yeah, man, it's a really big. His birthday. She's planning something for herself. It's her 60th birthday. So that's pretty big. Yeah. It's probably not a good idea for me to plan anything. Has Penn State had any protests? Not recently, nor did we have any protests during graduation. And I wasn't here in graduation, but I've spoken with a number of people. We've had a couple protests, but really relatively small, and nothing that has really gotten out of hand in terms of the just conflict between different groups, which I think is the thing that most kind of is what's particularly difficult. I mean, I understand social movements, and I understand protests, and I understand conflict, and I know what it's about. But I also am of a certain place in the world where I have a different reason for being here, and my reason for being here means, or just by definition, that really intense conflict between different protesting groups is problematic for me. So anyway, that's the answer to your question. The EU Parliament had elections also, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Vivek, I think that So Modi, for those who just like the really quick 3-sentence primer on India, the BJP is the party of the current prime minister of Modi. And he really has based a lot of his power in a very similar kind of way as many other people around the world. Victor Orban and Donald Trump and a lot of these folks, where it's like really identifying enemies and identifying trying to bring people into their own inner sanctum or inner orbit by saying, hey, you need to be afraid of those people, or those people over there are the cause of your misery and problems, and so I can protect you from those people, so you need to come give me your support and I'll take care of you. And Modi has done this, and placing lots and lots of blame, in particular on Muslims in India, and it's really dangerous. It's very much a problem, and it's not the kind of thing that you just want to see in a country like that. And it's not necessary, but it is, and what's happened. And so that's the BJP. So yeah, my God. Okay. Somebody else, any other questions? Because we just wanted to hop on today just to kind of get ourselves kind of back in a groove, and then I think that starting next week, when we hop in, I'm actually going to tackle a couple of topics. Bo, yeah, monkey brain and group out group behavior. Yeah, exactly. It does. The problem is that kind of power grab appeals to our kind of base instincts, and the most base of instincts are fear, and it's quite unfortunate when when politicians have to derive their power from the fear that their constituents or their citizens have. And usually, or very often, it's fear of other citizens. And that's when it's most deeply troubling. And it doesn't need to be that way, but it has been that way since probably time immemorial. And so these are these monkey brains that we have, and we're trying to kind of get past them. And I don't know, it seems it's just too easy to fall victim to that. So what are your thoughts on the EU elections this year? Hey, I have not followed the EU elections, only because I just got back from Korea, and I just haven't taken the time. And right now I'm really, really busy writing 4 different talks that I'm doing in Korea in 2 weeks. So I just haven't taken the time, but I'm going to, later this evening, I'm going to really dig into those elections. So Axel and others, if there's anything you think I really need to know, send me an email. I'm really quite curious. Dude, I don't have a Bucky Fuller world map. No, maybe I do. I don't know. I don't know what a Bucky Fuller world map is. Yeah. I actually, Wallflower, yeah, smart animals led by foolish feelings. That's kind of an interesting way to say that. Yeah, it's like it's a trope almost, right? To just kind of critique human beings as being, like talk about our monkey brains and all. And I don't like to do that, because it just feels too simplistic, and it feels, just intellectually lazy. And there you go. That's the map. No, I don't. Listen, the map behind me, I picked up at a framing shop. It was already mounted on a foam board. I picked that up for like $50, and so like that's how I ended up with that particular map. It's not the one I would choose, but anyway, it is. But in any case, so June 9th is the voting day. Okay. It feels kind of lazy to me just to make these sort of off the cuff statements about our monkey brains and so on. And so I don't like to do it, but, and also it just feels like by saying that, it's almost as though like I'm not seeing that I'm really also, that I also have a monkey brain, because I do. Right. And I, for example, I just watch how like advertising affects me, and how we like to think that maybe, we're not, advertising doesn't get to us, or we're smarter than that, or all those kinds of things, or just like these quick emotional responses that I sometimes have to things. And then I'm not like different from anybody else in that way. And so I think a lot of times when we use terms like that, like, talk about our monkey brains, we're almost like setting up as though that's not me, that's other people. And that's not, it doesn't feel, yeah, most monkeys are smart, actually. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what, in the end, Homo sapiens have this ability to like cultivate a brain that, as best as we can assess, it's really quite unique. And so, yeah, no, Wallflower. No, I like that. I like the humor that you brought to it. So no, I appreciate that. I saw that you were being funny. It is. I'm just more responding to my own particular just reference to the monkey brains myself, and how I really don't. I don't like to do that, although I do sometimes. It's like when I find myself sort of thinking that other, people around me or someone are just like really ignorant. I know that that's just really really lazy. It's just lazy thinking, and it's not, not where I want to be. So, all right. So listen, Jeff, why don't we pull out now, and everybody, I'm gonna come back, next week. We'll come back on next Wednesday, and I'm gonna, have something that I really engage with. I'll pick something out. It'd be really cool if you had a class about propaganda and how information is fed to us how it impacts our worldview. Yeah. Yeah. The problem is propaganda, man, it is. I have done things on propaganda, by the way, in the past, but it's one of those issues that for the people who study it, there's like just it takes a deep dive to go into it, to really understand how much it's impacting our psyches and our brains. And so you almost got to have someone who can do a real deep dive. And maybe I'll just look for that person, or wait for that person to show up, because it really is fascinating. And for me, it just requires, in order to do justice to what is really happening with propaganda, you just got to have someone who's really into it. And I'm just not knowledgeable enough about it, but it really would be pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Hey, so, social psychologist is that, I think I know somebody who's really does the deep dive into it. Yeah, that would be really cool. Mostly even just for me to have that conversation with somebody, would be really cool. So I did back during the Iraq War. I did a lot of stuff on propaganda with the war, sort of deconstructing the build up to the war and the ways in which the U.S. government, was sort of getting the American people and other people in other parts of the world, but mostly the American people, getting them on board with the invasion of Iraq, and just watching it and keeping and tracking it. And so in class, I was showing lots of videos and just different messagings, to put a plural on that. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Really fascinating, man, and how quickly Americans just hopped on board. Wow, it was brilliant. I mean, the first Iraq war was just a masterful exercise in propaganda on the part of the Americans. The second one was a little bit different, but the first one was masterful. Yeah. Okay. All right, y'all. Listen, are you familiar with June? Yeah, I am actually. Yeah. I had my students at some point in time read something that Jean Baudrillard, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but wrote and did, and a video that came out. Yeah, really intense. Yeah. Okay. Okay, listen, I'm just going to hop off. It's been an hour. It's good. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll definitely have some things to talk about, and then we'll go. We'll see. And Axel, send me a couple of things about the elections, if you would. I'm really something that you find that you feel like would be really good for me to read. Yeah. In the meantime, I'll kind of dig into it a little bit, but I've got these other talks I got to write. I've been working on one all day today. So, okay, y'all. Thanks. Be well, and we'll see you.